Nobody gave him a chance, but he was about to change television history. In the fall of 2002, a tense silence filled the ABC television network's Los Angeles offices. Executives gathered around the conference table were about to make one of the riskiest decisions of their careers. The file on the table read, Jimmy Kimmel, Late Night Show, but nobody's face showed any hope. "The guy's a radio host," muttered ABC's programming director Susan Lyne. "And he spent the last 5 years on The Man Show, well, making women jump on trampolines." Everyone in the room knew Jimmy Kimmel was known for The Man Show on Comedy Central, a controversial comedy program targeting beer-drinking, football-watching men. Now, ABC wanted to put him in the midnight slot competing against Jay Leno and David Letterman. "We must be crazy," added Lloyd Braun, ABC Entertainment president, but there was something they didn't know yet. Jimmy Kimmel was at his Hollywood home that evening, unaware that the biggest opportunity of his career was waiting for him. After years of being a sidekick on KROQ Radio's Kevin and Bean show, The Man Show had made him recognizable. But now he was 35 years old and had a bigger dream. When the phone rang, his life was about to change. "Jimmy, this is Susan Lyne from ABC." The voice was serious but hopeful. "We need to talk." This is exactly when everything changed. The next day, at ABC's Beverly Hills offices, Jimmy was shocked when he learned the details of the show. He wasn't just being asked to host a late-night show, but to undertake one of television history's most difficult missions, make ABC competitive in the midnight slot. "We're moving Nightline," Susan Lyne said from across the table. "You'll start at 11:35, going directly against Leno." Jimmy's expression was mixed. Was this his dream coming true or his nightmare? "I know what you're thinking," continued Lloyd Braun. "Everyone thinks you can't do it. The media defines you as Comedy Central's beer guy." But here's what was truly shocking. Jimmy had a completely different show concept in mind. "I want to talk about politics," Jimmy said. "Current events, real interviews, something very different from The Man Show." Everyone in the room exchanged glances. This wasn't the Jimmy Kimmel anyone expected. That evening at home, Jimmy stared at himself in the mirror for a long time. He thought about his radio days at KROQ, the crazy moments on The Man Show, and now this massive opportunity standing before him. But you haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. You won't believe this. Jimmy Kimmel Live. His first episode was scheduled to air in January 2003, but the challenges Jimmy faced had already begun. The media was tearing him apart. "Why Jimmy Kimmel Could Be Late-Night TV's Future" was the headline on the Hollywood Reporter's cover. The subheading was even more brutal. ABC's Desperate Decision. Variety newspaper hit even harder. From Man Show to Talk Show, Why This Won't Work. Jimmy read these stories every morning but tried not to show it. His producers were worried, ABC executives were tense, advertisers remained hesitant. "Maybe they're right," Jimmy thought lying in bed at night. "Maybe I should have just stayed a radio guy." But then something happened that nobody expected. Adam Carolla, his partner from The Man Show, called him. "Jimmy, you can do this, but on one condition." "What's that?" "Stay yourself. Not the Jimmy they want, but the real Jimmy." "Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail." January 26th, 2003, Sunday night. The first episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live was about to go on air. The studio wasn't completely ready yet. The set was being installed at the last minute. The audience was smaller than expected, the atmosphere tense. Jimmy was looking in the mirror in his dressing room. He wore a tie and black suit just like the other late-night hosts. But something felt wrong. "This isn't me," he muttered. There was a knock on the door. His producer, Daniel Kellison, entered. "Ready?" "Daniel, I can't do this. They're trying to make me into Letterman, but I'm not David Letterman." "Who do you know you are, Jimmy?" "A comedy guy from radio." "No, you're someone who loves stories, someone who loves listening to people. And most importantly, you're real." With 15 minutes to go, Jimmy made a big decision. He took off his costume and put on more comfortable clothes. He also decided to change the show's format right then and there. What you're seeing now is nothing. The first episode was a complete disaster. When the Nielsen ratings came in the next day, there was panic in the ABC offices. Jimmy Kimmel Live had only been watched by 1.8 million people. Jay Leno had 6 million. David Letterman had 4 million viewers. "We're done," Lloyd Braun said to Susan Lyne over the phone. "We lost in the first week." The media was merciless too. Jimmy Kimmel's late-night fiasco, New York Post, ABC's $20 million mistake, Entertainment Weekly. From radio to TV, why Kimmel is failing. USA. Today. Jimmy had trouble leaving his house those days. Although his friends tried to offer support, there was criticism everywhere. Social media didn't exist yet, but internet forums were tearing Jimmy apart. But what was truly devastating was that ABC executives were starting to consider canceling the show. "Maybe we should cut it at 13 episodes, Susan Lyne said in a meeting. "The damage keeps growing." Jimmy didn't know about this until one day he found his producer Daniel crying in the studio. "Daniel, what's happening?" "Jimmy, I think they're going to cancel us. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet." In mid-March 2003, when Jimmy Kimmel Live's cancellation was almost certain, something unexpected happened. Jimmy decided to do something completely different on his show that night. He didn't do any comedy, didn't deliver a monologue. Instead, he looked directly into the camera and poured his heart out. "I know very few people are watching me. I know everyone's tired of me. But tonight, I want to tell you why I'm here." He then talked about his childhood experiences with bullying, how he found himself on radio, how the Man Show changed him, and most importantly, why he wanted to be on late-night TV. "I'm not here to be famous. I'm here to talk with you." That night, even without social media, people started talking about the show through word of mouth. Phones were ringing. People were asking, "Who is this guy?" But the real change came a week later. The video of Jimmy's heartfelt speech started going viral on the internet. Viral by 2003 standards, emails, forums, early blogs. And the most surprising thing, Jay Leno himself called ABC to congratulate Jimmy. "Kid, that was the most genuine thing I've seen on television that night. Keep it up. This is exactly when everything changed." By August 2003, Jimmy Kimmel Live was completing its 7th month. ABC was still undecided about the show's future, but something was beginning to change. Jimmy was now completely himself. He was using his improvisational skills from his radio background, applying his comedy timing from The Man Show, but in a much smarter way. And most importantly, he was doing something never seen on midnight television. He was becoming genuinely political. The night he criticized George W. Bush's Iraq policies, NBC's reaction was swift. Jay Leno's producers called ABC to warn them about Jimmy. "This kid is dangerous." But that's when Jimmy realized he was on the right track. In September 2003, a week before the Emmy Awards, Jimmy received shocking news. Entertainment Weekly had chosen him as the year's boldest TV experiment. "Jimmy Kimmel is redefining late-night TV," the article read. "Perhaps the generation after Leno and Letterman starts with him." That night at home, celebrating with Sarah Silverman, that sparkle had returned to Jimmy's eyes. But here's what was truly shocking. The interview conducted on Jimmy Kimmel Live in October 2003 completely changed the show's fate. While Arnold Schwarzenegger was running for California governor, Jimmy invited him to his show. While other late-night shows were hesitant due to political immunity, Jimmy asked direct questions. "Arnold, are you really ready to run California, or is this just another movie role?" Schwarzenegger's answer was surprising. "Jimmy, because you ask these questions boldly, my campaign's chief strategist wants you as a consultant." After this interview, Jimmy Kimmel Live's viewership increased by 40%. The media started describing Jimmy as the bold new voice. But the real turning point was this. David Letterman called Jimmy backstage to congratulate him. "Kid, you're doing something we couldn't do. You're really listening. What you're seeing now is nothing." By early 2004, the media frequently began making Jimmy Kimmel versus Jay Leno versus David Letterman comparisons. Jimmy was no longer seen as the underdog, but as a real competitor. New York Times television critic Virginia Heffernan wrote a historic article about Jimmy. Jimmy Kimmel is creating a new genre in late-night television. He doesn't have Johnny Carson's sophisticated charm or Letterman's intellectual irony. He's just real. And how this reality can be so powerful is surprising. Jay Leno, however, was saying completely different things in private. According to what an NBC executive leaked, "That kid worries me. People believe in his sincerity." But the real big test came at the 2004 Emmy Awards. Jimmy was nominated for the first time in the Outstanding Talk Series category. On gala night, when he took the stage, the atmosphere in the hall was tense. This was the radio guy's final exam. "A year ago, nobody gave me a chance," he said into the microphone. "Today, there are still those who don't. But I'm here because you're here." He didn't win the award that night, but the standing ovation he received was even more valuable than winning. Wait a minute, don't miss this detail. In January 2004, Jimmy Kimmel Live's first anniversary was celebrated. The numbers were incredible. First episode, 1.8 million viewers, year-end average, 2.4 million viewers. Pre-social media buzz factor, 300% increase, advertiser satisfaction, 85%, industry average 60%. But the most important success came from critics. Variety newspaper, after its "Why It Won't Work" headline a year earlier, now ran the headline, "Jimmy Kimmel's Miraculous Transformation." A year ago, no one could have predicted that this man with a radio background would redefine late-night television, wrote critic Brian Lowry. ABC executives had not only stopped considering canceling Jimmy's show, but had decided to extend it for 3 more years. You won't believe this. In March 2004, television history was made. NBC and ABC organized the first late-night crossover event in history. Jimmy Kimmel would guest on Jay Leno's Tonight Show, and Jay would appear on Jimmy's show. This wasn't just a ratings war, but a symbol of generational transition. The conversation Jay Leno had with Jimmy in his green room before the show affected both their careers. "Jimmy, you're who I wanted to be 30 years ago," Jay said. "I tried to become Johnny Carson. You're trying to become Jimmy Kimmel. Which one is right, do you think?" Jimmy's performance on The Tonight Show that night became one of the best guest appearances in late-night history. He gave direct, sincere, but clever answers to Jay's questions. And finally, "Jay, you inspired me. But I'm not trying to be like you. I'm taking what you did and translating it into my generation's language." The Nielsen ratings broke records that night. The Tonight Show got its highest rating of the year with 8.2 million viewers. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. In May 2004, the biggest approval for Jimmy came from an unexpected place: David Letterman. Dave called Jimmy from the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York and said, "Kid, I'm loving watching television again because of you." This phone conversation shocked not only Jimmy but the entire industry. David Letterman was late-night TV's toughest critic. His approval was like an imperial seal. But Letterman's real plan was different. He invited Jimmy to New York and made a proposal. "Let's do a special together. Late night's past and future. I'm the past, you're the future." CBS executives initially objected. "Dave, he's ABC's guy. Why are you giving him a platform?" Letterman's response was legendary. "Because he's doing television, real television. What are we doing?" This is exactly when everything changed. When Jimmy Kimmel Live's second-year results were announced, nobody could believe it. Average viewership, 2.8 million, 50% increase. 18 to 49 age group, 65% market share increase. Social media buzz, #1 trending, MySpace and early blogs. Celebrity guest satisfaction, 96%. But what was truly surprising was something else. Jimmy was starting to have real influence in politics. In the 2004 presidential campaign, candidates were lining up to appear on his show. After John Kerry appeared on Jimmy's show, his support among young voters increased by 15%. George W. Bush also wanted to appear on the show at the last minute. "I'm no longer just a comedian," Jimmy said at a production meeting. "I think I've become a cultural influencer. This scares me." But here's what was truly shocking. Late-night TV's Big Three, Leno, Letterman, Conan, had officially become the Big Four. Jimmy had been officially accepted. What you're seeing now is nothing. At the beginning of 2005, the most iconic moment in Jimmy's career occurred. At the Critics' Choice Awards, there were 3 people in the late-night category: Jay Leno, David Letterman, and Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy won the award. As he walked to the stage, the hall was giving him a standing ovation. But Jimmy's speech became one of the most memorable speeches in late-night history. 2 years ago, most people in this room thought I would fail. Sometimes I thought so too. But I learned that success doesn't come from being like someone else. Success comes from being who you are and perfecting that. After that night, the media tone completely changed. Jimmy Kimmel, the unlikely late-night king. Rolling Stone. How Jimmy Kimmel won late night by being himself. Vanity Fair. The Kimmel Revolution. How one man changed television. The Atlantic. You won't believe this. By the end of 2005, Jimmy Kimmel was an established name in late-night TV, but his real legacy was beginning in a different area, inspiring the next generation. Comedy Central started analyzing Jimmy's formula and creating similar shows. Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart openly said they were influenced by Jimmy's political approach. "Jimmy showed us that you can do politics in late night, but you don't have to be partisan," Jon Stewart said in an interview. Most importantly, Jimmy's success story began to be taught as a case study in broadcast journalism schools. From radio to late night, the Jimmy Kimmel model. But Jimmy's real impact was changing the industry's perspective on young talent. Networks now began giving chances to people who didn't have established comedy backgrounds but had authentic voices. Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. At the beginning of 2006, ultimate validation came for Jimmy Kimmel. Johnny Carson's widow, Alex Carson, sent Jimmy a personal letter. "Johnny would have watched your show and would definitely be proud. You're continuing his tradition, but in your own unique way." This letter had an earthquake effect in the late-night community. Johnny Carson's approval, even posthumously, was the highest honor. Jay Leno's reaction was also surprising. "That night on The Tonight Show," he said, "Johnny Carson was my hero. If he approves of Jimmy, then so do I. Welcome to the club, Jimmy. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet." At the end of Jimmy Kimmel Live's 3rd year, 2006, the final numbers were shocking. Viewership growth. First day, 1.8 million viewers. 3rd year average, 3.2 million viewers. Peak rating, 4.1 million. Schwarzenegger interview. Demographic dominance, 18 to 34 age, 67% market share, surpassed Jay Leno. College-educated viewers, 72% market share. Online engagement, 890% increase from 2003 to 2006. Industry recognition. 3 Emmy nominations, 1 Critics' Choice Award, 2 Writers Guild nominations, 1 Peabody Award consideration. Financial success, ad revenue, $45 million. First year, $128 million. 3rd year, ABC profit margin, 340% increase in late-night slot syndication value, $200 million plus projected. This is exactly when everything changed. At the end of 2006, Jimmy Kimmel was invited as keynote speaker at the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters Convention, the broadcast industry's most prestigious event. This was final proof that the radio comedian had received recognition at the industry's highest level. In his speech, Jimmy summarized the entire journey. "I'm not here to learn how to be a better broadcaster. I'm here to teach you to think differently. When I was starting out, nobody gave me a chance, but I didn't need your permission to be myself. The 2,000-plus industry professionals at the convention applauded, standing for minutes. That night in his hotel room, Jimmy sat alone reflecting. Radio days, crazy times on The Man Show, terrifying moments on his first late-night show, and the fact that he was here now. The phone rang. It was ABC CEO Bob Iger. "Jimmy, we want to extend your contract for 10 years, and we have a special announcement. You won't believe this." At the beginning of 2007, ABC even began considering moving Jimmy Kimmel Live to prime time. This would be an unprecedented move in late-night history, but Jimmy refused. "I belong in late night," he said at the executive meeting. "This is my home. I don't want to abandon this." This decision perfectly defined Jimmy's character. He was using success not to change himself, but to strengthen his authenticity. Final statistics, 2003 to 2007. Total viewers reached 147 million unique individuals, industry influence, 12 copycat show attempts, career trajectory change, radio host, national TV personality, cultural influencer, personal growth, self-doubt, confidence, wisdom. Jimmy Kimmel's transformation was complete, but it wasn't transformation in the conventional sense. He hadn't changed himself. He had refined who he already was. The real victory. Jimmy proved that success comes from being authentic, not from trying to be like someone else. The industry impact. Late-night TV was forever changed. Networks were now open to diverse voices. Jimmy's path opened doors for countless others. The personal lesson. The biggest risks often lead to the biggest rewards. Jimmy's story proves that when everyone doubts you, sometimes that's exactly when you're about to break through. Nobody believed in him, but he was about to change television history.